Okay, guys, let's talk about 6 more mistakes I see frequently in English. What are they? Why are they incorrect? And how do we fix them to make them correct? If you want to learn English grammar, stay tuned. Okay, 6 more common mistakes in English. Let's get started. This video is part 2. You can watch part 1 here. All right, let's get right into it. Number 1, don't say, "The party was so funny." Say instead, "The party was so fun." Why? Well, funny is an adjective, which means causing laughter. Ha ha ha, right? For example, a funny story that causes laughter. A funny joke causes laughter. A funny comedian causes laughter. So, funny means causing laughter. Fun is also an adjective, but the meaning is not the same as funny. Fun means amusing, entertaining, or enjoyable. For example, a fun holiday, a fun vacation, a fun adventure, a fun day at the beach, a fun date with my girlfriend, a fun party, not a funny party. So, the party was so fun. This means the party was amusing, entertaining, or enjoyable. Number 2, don't say, "I was boring in the class." Say instead, "I was bored in the class." Why? Boring is an adjective, which means not interesting, dull, or tedious. For example, a boring job in an office. A boring class. A boring job in an office? This means the job is boring. Okay? The job is boring. The focus here is on job. A boring class. The class is boring. The focus is on the class. Okay? So, I was boring in the class. We want to focus on the class. Boring focuses on the class. But in this sentence, it says, I was boring. Right? So it means I was not interesting, dull, or tedious. This is a little bit strange. So something can be boring, but a person is not usually boring. However, something someone does can be boring. To themselves, to me, or to someone else. So, I was boring in the class. This is strange. Okay, don't say this. But If I say my presentation was boring in the class, that's okay. This means my presentation, the presentation I gave to the class, maybe I thought it was boring, the presentation, or maybe the people in the class thought it was boring, my presentation that I gave. Okay, and here in the class is in the wrong place. I see this often. My presentation in the class was boring. That's much better. So bored means feeling tired or unhappy because something is not interesting. Bored is about you, how you feel. Bored is how something makes you feel. Okay? Boring, on the other hand, is your opinion about something. The focus is on the thing, not you. So, I am bored. The class is boring. I am bored. The class is boring. I am bored because the class is boring. Understand? So, me, bored. The class, boring. More examples. Romantic comedies are really boring. It's true. Romantic comedies make me feel bored. Trips to the museum are really boring. I'm so bored on this trip. Okay, number 3. Don't say, I have been married since 3 years. Say instead, I have been married for 3 years. Why? Or say instead, I have been married for 3 years, or I have been married since 2021. Why? Only use since with a specific point in time. For example, since 2021, since June 25th, since yesterday evening, since 7 a.m., since this morning, since last Thursday, since I graduated high school, since I was a baby. These are all specific times. Only use since with a specific point in time. Only use for to talk about a period of time. Okay? For example, for 3 years, for 10 minutes, for 17 days, for 1 month, for the entire class, for the whole show. So only use for to talk about a period of time. I have been married for 3 years. I have been married since 2021. Okay, number 4. Don't say, I like a lot the coffee. Say instead, I like coffee a lot. Why? Only use the if you are talking about a specific coffee, the one you are drinking right now. And it's probably better to say this coffee, specific. Only use a lot after the thing you are talking about, coffee. This is the object of the verb. For example, I like you a lot. I like a lot you? No. I enjoy playing basketball a lot. I enjoy a lot playing basketball? No. Number 5. Don't say, allow me to advise you about. Let me advise you about. Say instead, allow me to advise you about. Advise, not advice. Let me advise you about. Or, allow me to give you some advice about. Let me offer you some advice about. Why? Well, advise means to offer suggestions. It's a verb. Or to recommend something. Offer suggestions, recommend something. So, allow me to advise you about. Let me advise you about. This is infinitive. This is verb. Advice is a noun. Advice means a recommendation, noun, recommendation, or guidance, also a noun. So, allow me to give you some advice about. Give is the verb, advice is the noun. Let me offer you some advice about. Offer is the verb, advice is the noun. Okay, guys, number 6. Don't say, the another thing I want to talk to you about. Say instead, the other thing I want to talk to you about is. Or, another thing I want to talk to you about is. Know the. Why? Other means something different from the thing already mentioned. Something different from the thing already mentioned, already talked about. For example, I want to tell you about my trip. The other thing I want to tell you about is the restaurant I've chosen for dinner tonight. So, I want to tell you about my trip. This is the first thing mentioned, my trip. The restaurant I've chosen for dinner tonight, this is the second thing mentioned. My trip, the restaurant I've chosen for dinner tonight. Are these similar or different? They are different topics. So we use other. Another means adding one more of something in the same or similar category as something already mentioned. For example, I want to tell you about where I stayed on my trip. Maybe the hotel. Another thing I want to tell you about is what I did on my trip. So here, where I stayed on my trip is the first thing mentioned. What I did on my trip is the second thing mentioned. Are these similar or different? Well, they are in the same category, my trip. Where I stayed on my trip, what I did on my trip. These are similar topics about my trip. So, more examples. Let's have another beer. This means +1. You had some beer before, and you want to have one more beer, right? The same topic. I'm tired of beer. What are the other drinks on the menu? This means you want to try something different. The other. Okay. In the previous video, we talked about 5 mistakes. In this video, we have talked about 6 more mistakes. So, try not to make these another mistakes. Wait, is that correct? Try not to make these other mistakes. Okay, there we go. Let me know your questions and your ideas for future videos down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. My name is Liam. This is Grammar Simple, the channel that makes English grammar simple. I will see you in a future video. Bye for now.